Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Retro Gamers Podcast, episode number 334. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
And where the hell are you today?
Well, I just decided that we've been living in the same state for the last,
We
like
have.
9, 10 months now.
Yeah.
And you still refuse to come by. So I said, you know what? I'm getting out of here. So
Rude.
so I left.
I think we've both been to each other's places equal amount of times in the last 2 months. Honestly, it really didn't pan out the way we thought it was going
No,
to.
we're like, oh, we're gonna do this in person like every week, and this is gonna be great. And it's like, no.
Who knew?
It's about the same amount of it's about the same number of times as when I lived across the country.
Yeah. Essentially. Shame on us. We should fix that.
Oh, so well. I'm on location this week.
You are. I feel like Rockapella should be showing up at any point. Where in the world is Anthony from the Retro Gamers?
Oh, see, there you go. Very, very nicely done.
I'm sure we can afford them.
I was just going to say, considering it's 2023, we can probably afford them for sure.
Actually, there was a really cool, just real fast, it was not deep, but find it on YouTube. It's a really cool, I think it's called Defunct Land or something, where the guy goes into details about the game show. Nothing bad, just the history of the game show. And it was really interesting to listen to. So
that's cool.
That brought back a lot of memories.
Nice. So, and, I love that game show.
Oh, show was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And with that, actually, we're going to kind of get right into things. But
lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about. A really good topic to talk about. And first, we want to mention, because it's only a month out at this point now, even less than a month. The Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, from the cradle of aviation in Long Island, or on Long Island, will be coming up August 11th through the 13th. And yes, as far as I know, we're both still going to be there.
Yeah, I hope so.
So come on down, check us out. We do have a table there. Buy your tickets now. Don't bother waiting. Buy them now, liretro.com. You can let them know that the Retro Gamer is sending you. They might charge you double at that point. But we will definitely be there, and come by the table, say hi. We're going to have games there. We'll be doing a podcast from there.
Or just sneak in and squat like we're going to do.
That too, exactly. So yeah, check it out again, August 11th through the 13th, Cradle of Aviation Museum there in Nassau County, Long Island, the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. Check it out.
Yeah,
should be a lot of fun cosplay there too. So.
Oh yeah, there always is.
Yeah. So jumping right into it, because really everything that we have to talk about today is really centered around this one major topic that kind of hit the surface the last week and a half. And it's kind of, I don't want to say compelling, but it's interesting and sad at the same time, I guess.
Yes.
The Video Game History Foundation had recently, actually on July 10th to be exact, posted an article, just quoting the title of the article, 87% missing: the disappearance of classic video games.
Yep.
New study reveals most classic video games are completely unavailable.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I never really put a number to it. I always knew that there were games, systems, just things in the gaming world that were I was never going to touch, never going to play. But to say that 87% of classic video games released in the US are essentially just not here anymore, or just unavailable.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I think the problem is because, obviously as technology advanced, and you got new systems, you got new computers and everything like that. What happened, obviously all of these games were created for different mediums, right? With all these different consoles and stuff. So you get to a point where it's like, once the console is obsolete, the game is obsolete, and unless somebody actually makes the effort to port it over to current technology, like now we're seeing, where everything can be saved as a data file and you can put it on your computer. For a long time that wasn't the case. It was like, oh, we're transferring it to a floppy disk, now we're going to put it on CD, and so on and so forth. So I think like now all of a sudden everybody's realizing it's like, wait, all these games that nobody knows about aren't available to anybody. And yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it, because 87%, that's a huge number.
It definitely is. And not only where the games are just completely disappearing, but also part of that is also just accessibility. Just for the general public. I mean, yeah, you're going to have your collectors, obviously, and a lot of these games are high end, so they're not gunned for the average player, or maybe a what's what casual player.
Casual gamer.
Um,
Yeah.
Again, just quoting the article from GameHistory.org, which is the Video Game History Foundation, nearly 9 in 10 classic games, there are few options. Seek out and maintain a vintage collectible gaming and hardware, travel across the country to visit a library, or piracy. And, we're not a fan of piracy. Where emulation is fine, and we talked about it a long time ago. We kind of put two and two together. With emulation, especially on games that no longer are presenting a profit for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Obviously, we don't be emulating the Switch or PS4 games, or even a game that ends up getting re-released, like the Disney Saturday morning cartoon collection. Okay, you can get those, and we're not being sticklers about, oh, you have to have the NES version. This is any version of the game. And you kind of brought up a point with the different systems where you do have to move forward, but it's weird. Back in the day when we were going from like NES, Super NES, even to N64, during those first few generations, certainly we never even thought about. This wasn't even a thought. We figure, all right, we're just moving on, and we'll take it from there. Who knew retro would have been a thing at some point? You know what I mean?
Well, the idea of, also the idea of preservation wasn't necessarily thought of in that case too, because I mean, when you think about it, at the time when consoles were really picking up, just thinking about looking at another medium like movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Movies at the time just started coming out with this whole concept of people can watch movies in their home, not necessarily, not only through like the magic of a cable box where you got HBO and you got to watch them, but the idea of like, oh, VHS tapes, laser discs, and then eventually DVDs, where all of a sudden like you can have the films in your home, and because you were able to do it in those formats, the idea of preserving them helped out as well. But you always had the original format on film that could essentially be transferred over. Here, because every console was built differently, every game was built differently for that specific console, so it's tougher to really, transfer everything over, or at least just more, and maybe not tougher, just more work. In other words, like if somebody had to like transfer the entire collection of the Atari 2600, it's like, granted, they're small games. I'm like, but you got to do each one individually, and when we're living in an era where you had a video game boom in the 70s and early 80s, and then obviously after Nintendo kind of brought it back, you got it again in like the late 80s and 90s. It's just a lot. And then PC gaming on top of it.
Oh, I forgot about that. And this all leads to like the existence of like archive.org.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. That has a lot of games on there. And again, it's not intended, not meant specifically like for piracy. No. It's there to preserve, and that's the whole idea. Some sort of preservation. Again, we don't need to preserve a new Switch or PS5 game because they're new, but a lot of these old games, those are the ones that again need preservation. So it's almost like looking for a virtual museum, a virtual interactive museum, if you will.
Well, and that's what archive.org is. And I'm a big fan of archive.org. Granted, I don't go there regularly. Every once in a while, I think of something where it's like, oh, yeah, I remember when I had that. And I go look and see if it's been preserved on archive.org. But just knowing that it's there preserving those games. Like I remember there was a something I had on my PC way back in the day. It was an X-Men. It was like an X-Men cartoon maker. And literally,
Did you used to have that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I had that, and what it was you had you had backdrops and stuff, and you actually were able to kind of create your own little cartoon with the X-Men in it. They had a version with Spider-Man, stuff like that. And randomly one day it popped in my head, and I was just like, "Ooh, I wonder if archive.org has it," and it does. Or at least they had the Spider-Man one. I don't know if they had the X-Men one, but it was just really cool to see that it still exists out there somewhere, because that's like, those are the types of things where they're kind of, they get lost in time.
Exactly.
Like they're just random games that maybe were niche at the time, that nobody thinks of. But to it would be, I mean, granted, archive.org is trying to do it, but it would be great to have all of the video game developers, companies, and all that stuff maybe make a joint effort, like, to preserve everything they have.
Yeah. One of the roadblocks into the situation of trying to preserve a lot of these games are outdated copyright laws, which are preventing a lot of these places from, adding these games or getting access to the games or anything like that. Industry's only 13% of its history is available of video game. If I'm reading this better, of video games. So it's that number is just so low, and to think of some of the games that are available, or were available like back in the day, and we have a couple lists that we're going to go over in a minute. It's just it lends me more, like, every now and again, if I order something online, like whether it's Limited Run or one of these other sites, or even every now I just see a pop-up like to donate to the video game. And look, folks, if you want to donate, obviously you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. Of course, no donation is too small, no donation is too big for them, but it's starting to become more and more, for me especially, aware of how hard it is for people to have access. Again, it's the people, for me, it's the having access to the games,
right,
to be able to play them.
No, I couldn't. I was just gonna say, I agree with you completely, because every once in a while you'll randomly think of this game that you had from years ago, and you're like, oh, I remember that game. That game was awesome. Where can I play it? Or and you don't have $200-300 to buy like the original
or even more points,
or more. Yeah, like a couple of games that came to mind in my head, and maybe they're on this list, and that's why they popped in my head, was just like the Gyromite stack up games that you play with Rob on the NES. It's like, if you don't still have Rob and those games, and let's face it, like Stack Up, I think loose is going for $500.
Yeah,
so wild. The odds of like being able to add those to your collection, it's like, you got to be willing to drop major money. And then on top of that, you have to have an NES console that you can still hook up to your TV. You got to find a Rob, which is also going to cost you money. It's going to be expensive.
Let alone finding one that works.
Yeah, but you're talking about, like, let's say you were a big fan of those games. You're talking about potentially up to like $1,000 investment just to play them again, because they're not available anywhere.
No, exactly. Again, quoting from the website, Video Game History Foundation, the argument that these games, meaning the ones that are unattainable or unplayable, the argument that these games are commercially available is what's keeping the video games behind the preservation world. So supposedly somewhere, I think it's either the copyright law or some other organizations stating, hey, we can still make money on these games, where no, that's not the case. Like, the games that we've been picking for like Game of the Week, I'm trying to think, for the most part, are really, maybe like Batman for Sunsoft.
Yeah,
they're not going to re-release that anytime soon. Forget about the headache. Forget about the copyright headache of Batman, and what I mean, that part alone, which that's almost understandable, don't get me wrong, but just the game itself,
well, I know. I wonder if the copyright laws, though, I wonder if they run like akin to like movie copyrights and things like that, like how like characters and anything that you copyright is yours for like 90 years until it becomes public domain type of thing. I just wonder if like it does need to be adjusted for video games. But here's the other problem when you think about it. You bring up limited run games, right?
Yeah.
Limited run games is always going out and licensing the rights to re-release these games.
Yeah, big time.
But because companies like that are doing it, it still makes all of these video games commercially viable, which is why people can hang on to those copyrights, because it's like, oh, this is so commercially viable because if I went to a third party I went to a third party like Limited Run Games or Strictly Limited or whoever, they'll pay me, to, re-release these games on a current console, and we'll make money off of it. And I think that adds to the problem.
But depending on how it's done, that's almost, I'd rather have that than, because it's going to be, it would be up to date, first of all. So if there were maybe like any issues or anything with original go about, And in fact, let's jump ahead real quick. Well, not even jumping ahead. This is all part of the same conversation. Limited Run just last week had their showcase, their third annual showcase. It was a very fun showcase, actually. They went back in time to the very first E3 show.
Nice.
And they're trying to save the current E3. So they were talking about, it was really fun. Like they're doing a presentation, and like I don't know who it was, but like they put the guy into actual E3 1990 whatever.
Nice.
So it's the actual crowd from the 90s and everything. It was wild. It was pretty wild. And they announced a bunch of games, but we're just going to really mention, not even talk about, but mention a lot of these games, which again, otherwise would have fell into the situation of either completely can't find, or can't find for a reasonable price. So one that I know you're a fan of, and I'm sure you're looking forward to, Clock Tower, the original Famicom edition.
Yeah, that was Super Famicom. Yeah, that was actually the highlight of their list for me. No, serious, because it was actually when I used to go to Japan all the time, I was actually looking for the Super Famicom version of Clock Tower because they never made a Western release of that. Granted, I have it on the PlayStation 1. I have the original one, which is great. But just being able to have the Super Famicom one to me was always going to be extra special. Now that they're translating and releasing it again, it's one of those things where it's like we've never had it before here in the West, that version. So like I was really excited to hear that they were releasing that. And trust me, as soon as that pre-order goes up, it's mine.
And another one where now this is another take of maybe adjusting because to get around the copyrights. So they're not, I mean, there's no way they would be able to re-release the Zelda and Link CDI games. No, but they did. They are releasing a spiritual successor to those games called Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore. And it's done in the vein of those two games from the CDI.
Yeah,
they got the voice actors who played Link and Zelda from those games. They're back in this game, and even that crude animation
style
is in there. Yeah. So, and again, just a way to, all right, it's not Zelda and Link, but it's something to get a feel for.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's something I would consider, although selfishly, I would like the original CDI games.
That's us, yeah.
Which you have one.
Absolutely, I do. Hotel Mario.
Yes, you got that in LA.
I did. Some other games being re-released. Gargoyles Remastered, Disney's Gargoyles Remastered.
Oh yeah,
Genesis.
I saw that.
Looking forward to that.
I was never a Gargoyles television fan because it was too old at that point.
Yeah, neither have I. I can never consider myself too old, unfortunately. But I wasn't into I know a couple people who are huge fans of the cartoon, so they're looking forward to that. The Gex trilogy is coming out. So I already have the first one, so that's good. I'm already up on top of that. The big announcement, well, not the biggest announcement wasn't announced. Still no Rondo of Blood. Nope. But we are getting a Jurassic Park Classic Games collection.
Yeah, that's really cool because some of those games were, at least one or two of them were really good.
Right. What are the big names that we can talk about here that we enjoyed? Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, the definitive edition.
I saw that and just started laughing immediately.
That's one. Again, that's a perfect example of good luck trying to find an original copy, let alone one that works on a system that works. But now we get the game on modern systems. And again, we're just talking about access to the game itself. So very cool on that one. And you might like this because I think you might have played it originally. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Complete Edition.
Yes, I saw that. And no, I never played.
Oh, I thought you did. Oh,
not 3. I played the original.
Okay.
I played the original with 2 expansion packs.
Gotcha.
Which were really fun. Actually, a funny side note. While I was traveling yesterday, I was sitting on the plane, and the person sitting to my left, this woman sitting to my left, was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon.
That is phenomenal.
Yep. And if I wasn't tired and annoyed, I would have actually struck up a conversation.
They're re-releasing from back in the day. There's many ways to pronounce this. I don't know which one is correct. Karateka or Karateka. Yes, that very and it's coming with a almost like how Atari 50th did the like interviews and everything. Like it's gonna have a
Yes.
lot of videos about how the game was made and everything like
That
that.
was
So,
that was part of my retro news. So if we
oh,
can bleed
okay,
into that,
we'll get yeah.
it is the making of Karateka, an
Yes.
interactive documentary.
Yep.
Yep.
It's gonna be the first of many that's gonna be coming out, and it's gonna have multiple versions of the game, like even a remastered edition.
Yes. So they're calling it the Digital Eclipse Gold Master Series,
Yep.
which will be interactive documentaries about gaming's innovators and their creations. And Karateka is the first one.
Yeah. No. Digital Eclipse. They're awesome with that.
Yeah.
Also, we're getting actually this is a new game, but originally it was shut down, so Limited Run was able to bring it back going. Shantae Advance,
Yes, I
Risky
saw that.
Revolution, great series. I just recently started playing Shantae. It's a great
Yeah, I was
series.
gonna say I never played the Shantae series.
And then which I thought was very interesting, but probably gonna be very pricey. The complete soundtrack collection to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. Basically 9 vinyls for
Yes.
every game.
That is that's a lot of vinyl.
That is a lot. I'm really hoping those go digital.
Yeah.
And of course there were many others, like the Castlevania Advance collection is coming out
Mhm.
physically, which I've already had for a while. It's been digital. But to piggyback on Limited Run, oh gosh, forgive me, I'm not gonna remember the name of it. But it's called the Carbon Engine, I think it's called. I am mispronouncing it right now, so forgive me. But basically it's Limited Run's like system that helps bring I shouldn't say original, old games to new consoles, because you can't just port it. Sometimes you do have to change up and you got to redo things.
Right.
But this Carbon Engine or Carbon, whatever it's called, forgive me, I don't have it, has been making life very easy to bring a lot of these old games to the new systems. Again, another way to preserve games. Even if you have to
Yes.
pay for it, that's fine. We have to pay for it originally, but
Yeah.
just another option for these titles. So, which I think is really cool.
Very cool. No, I
Yeah,
think it's I think I think it's something that just needs to be done. I mean,
it has to. It has
yeah.
to. Just some quick facts here. And that was, and again, those other games for Limited Run, but those were the big hitters for us, at least, and especially to talk about this video game history. 5 quick facts from the Video Game History Foundation about the situation. 87% of classic games are not in release and are considered critically endangered. 87%. Availability is low across every platform and time period tracked in the study. Libraries and archives can digitally preserve but not digitally share video games, and can provide on-premise access only. So that might be a way of doing it as well. Going to your local library, if they even still have those, who knows?
No, libraries still exist, and that would be a great way to do it.
Libraries and archives are allowed to digitally share other media types, such as books, film, and audio, and are not restricted to on-premises access. So again, it's a situation like of the 4 mediums, books, music, movies, and games, 3 of them are taken care of and are good to go. But for some reason, video games are probably, again, just seen as, oh, that's just a baby's toy.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting way to revitalize like libraries, the importance of libraries, because
Totally.
we've become such a digital society.
Yeah.
That having that at your fingertips, because like there are when you go to the library, you can rent movies.
Yeah, absolutely,
for
right?
free.
Yeah,
you can rent movies for free, which is amazing.
totally.
Let alone obviously books, which is where they
yeah,
really
books.
started.
Wait, is that how libraries started? Books.
Books. Those things made out of paper that you read.
I wouldn't know. And then for those of you who are not fans of lobby groups, the Entertainment Software Association, the video game industry's lobbying group, has consistently fought against expanding video game preservation within libraries and archives. I don't have more details on that. Forgive me. This is just, I'm quoting quick facts from the website.
Yeah, that's a money.
But
thing.
that's why. Yeah, lobby.
Well, because
lobbyists are always money thing.
It inflates the value of the physical medium.
So very very interesting.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like a copy of Stack Up won't be worth $1,000 if people have access to it wherever they want. But I get it. To me, the physical one, it should still be valuable, but it won't be as valuable. That's the problem.
But to me, the lobby, and again, I don't have all the details on it, but to me, the lobbying group should be more to help Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, not necessarily help the local mom and pop retro game store, because that's who's going to benefit from a $1,000 stack up.
But by helping Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they're just inadvertently helping the mom and pop stores.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right.
You look at the big fish, and sometimes the small fish benefit too.
Fish. All righty. So continuing on Stack Up and Gyromite, and yes, I do have a list, actually 21 Nintendo games. Mm-hmm. These are 21 vintage Nintendo games that, as of this recording, are only available for original hardware. So
I'm sure that's a very small number of what the actual list is.
I'm sure. Again, this is just maybe the top 21 or 21 popular ones.
Because I can definitely name a few that are only available there.
100%. So we're just going to get through this list again, we're just going to talk about it. First and foremost, and trust me, I'm always hoping I see a digital release of this. Popeye on the NES.
Mm-hmm.
Great game. Luckily, I do have a copy.
It was a great game. Yeah, considering they made it because they couldn't use Popeye and Donkey Kong.
Basically, that's how we got Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Kung Fu.
Yep.
Who knew? You would think that would have been on the Switch by now.
I thought that would have been on the Mini.
You're right.
Yeah, that should have been on the Mini because that was a first party game.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it wasn't on the Mini. So
yeah.
As you mentioned, Ant, Gyromite and Stack Up.
Yep.
Gumshoe.
Yep. Well, a lot of the shooting games are not going to be available because once we moved on from CRTs, those light guns don't work anymore. So how do you remake those?
Correct. Now a lot of, you're going to see some themes with this now. So Gumshoe, Duck Hunt, just a couple of, again, the Zapper games. You're right. One is just the Zapper doesn't work. Now, yes, if you were quick enough and lucky enough, and not lucky enough, but if you did it, these were like Duck Hunt was available on the Wii U Virtual Console. But now the Wii U eShop is shut down, so that's now no longer. So it was available for a little while, and you can use the Wii remote, but not anymore.
Yep.
A game, Devil World, if you remember that one.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that game.
Yep. Going back to the Zappers, Hogan's Alley, which I loved. Hogan's Alley.
That one was fun.
Yep. Again, it was available on the Wii. I don't know if I downloaded Duck Hunt on the Wii U. I don't know if I downloaded any of the Zappers. Which now I'm regretting. Donkey Kong Jr. Math.
Yes.
Which was a fun, I got to admit, for someone who's terrible at math, which is me, I enjoyed that game. I didn't learn a thing, but I actually enjoyed the game.
Well, the whole point of it was to teach you math.
It was, and it failed miserably.
And it failed, yeah.
Wild Gunman.
Okay.
Baby's Toy. Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yeah, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. If you don't have a physical copy, you're just out of luck.
Yeah, right. Well, even though this is, what does this say? Oh yeah, no. All right, this specifically talking about Mike Tyson's. Okay. Well, a lot of that also has to do with the cop. That you know what? That's a little unfair. Mike Tyson's Punch Out, because that was more of a Mike Tyson's licensing thing with Tyson, and plus, he had some issues back then. Going to jail.
Because you can still play Punch Out.
Correct. Yeah. Star Tropics 2, Zoda's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
The original Nintendo version of Tetris.
Yes.
On the NES.
Yes.
Well, let alone also the Tengen version. So,
well, all the Tengen games are endangered.
Yeah. Urban Champion on NES, which I never got into.
It was a terrible game.
Yeah. Here's one I'm shocked, is because I keep thinking it's on the Switch collection. For the Super Nintendo, SimCity.
Yeah. When I saw that on the list, I got very surprised.
Yep. We're going to start moving over to the Super Scope games on the Super NES. Yoshi's Safari.
Yep.
The Super Scope 6, which was a game in itself, and that big giant honking gun. One I thought they would actually maybe come out with, but they haven't yet, Mario Paint.
Yeah, well, I guess I mean, that one would be easy considering, you do have motion controls, especially on the Switch. Like, I'm surprised that's not on the online collection yet.
Battle Clash and Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge. Again, a couple of Super Scope games.
Yep.
And of course, which I've been arguing about this since day one, and I know this is one of Anthony's favorites, the entire Virtual Boy library.
Yeah, that could, you know what? If there was anything that could stay dead, it should be that.
And I'm going to quote Nintendo Life on this because I've been saying this forever as well. How there was never a first party Virtual Boy collection produced for the 3DS is a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Virtual Boy Wario Land thoroughly deserves to be played by more people.
Yeah, you had said that
Yep.
of all the games, that was the one to keep
It was
from
phenomenal.
Unvirtuable. Yeah.
And Telro Boxer isn't half bad either, they say.
All right, fair. But again, they all need to go away.
So, but nevertheless, these are games that, just again, unless you have the original hardware
Yeah.
or hardware to play them,
Mhm.
they're available only on physical media for now. We'll see what happens as time goes on.
Well, yeah, and then, it just made me think of like other ones that I used to play all the time, like Casino Kid on the NES. I loved,
Yes.
which you're not going to find. Top Gun.
Oh my gosh! Again, well, that's going to be tough for licensing, but
no, exactly. Yeah, license game. But I'm just thinking in general, like,
yep.
Go back to, again, if we're talking game shows, which are our favorites, like anything Jeopardy, anything Wheel of Fortune. How about the Classic Concentration, Remote Control, like all those games on the NES? Just just gone. Or will be gone. Yeah.
Soon. Well, but also then you can bring up the point. Well, I mean, Jeopardy is Jeopardy, Wheel is Wheel. They're always going to have versions of those. I know we're talking specifically, but at least those can live on.
There's only one Classic Concentration.
I was going to say that, not so much. Or maybe Hollywood Squares, like my signed copy from John Davison, who seemed very upset at signing my copy.
Yes. Or Win, Lose, or Draw.
Yes. Oh yeah, he was.
Or wait, how about probably the best one on the NES, Anticipation, which was
yes,
which was a standalone.
So many games. Hopefully, we'll see more. Down the road. But limited runs, keeping up as much as they can with stuff like this. You have archive.org, and you have there is. For those who haven't, and there are some means that are inexpensive to access ROMs and emulators on these old games. Again, we're talking about old games that just aren't making money anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, I don't mind, if you're playing a ROM a lot and then they do come like with a remaster or, buy if you can, shell out the bucks for it at least. That's probably only fair. But one more thing to mention real quick on my end, and this was only just a couple days ago from when we recorded, and I think this is huge because this thing is basically the only reason, until the Polymega had their announcement, was the only reason why I was still booting up my Atari VCS. Antstream Arcade is actually available now on Xbox.
Yes, it's available on Xbox, and it is a I'm trying to think. It's either an annual subscription for $29.99 or you can buy a lifetime subscription for $79.99.
Honestly, I would go lifetime. I'm telling you, I've used
for 1,400 games. When I saw that, it actually made me question whether or not to get an Xbox Series X.
Well, no, you can still use Xbox One.
Oh, can you use Xbox One?
Yep.
Score. Now, is that only cloud-based though?
I'm going to assume it's cloud-based.
Okay.
Because I mean it's over 1,300 games, and I mean heavy hitters. I mean, just looking at the one screen here: Pac-Man, Mortal Kombat, The Secret of Monkey Island, Rygar, Metal Slug. These are just some that I'm looking at the picture here.
That'll make me take my Xbox One out again.
No, it's definitely worth it. And it's almost wondering if now they're on Xbox, if at some point they'll move to the PS4 or PS5 or even Switch. You can play it now. Don't get me wrong. Antstream Arcade, you can play. It's web-based.
Yes.
So you can play it on your computer as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I play it on the VCS. I love this Antstream Arcade. Again, literally tons of games. And what's cool about it is not only did he just have the games, they do weekly challenges. They're going to be doing daily challenges.
Nice.
And the challenges, I don't know how they do it or the things around it, but like for example, right now they have an elevator action daily challenge or weekly challenge, excuse me, where I think you're just confined to the elevator and all the lights are off. and you have to see how many bad guys you can get with just the lights off.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? So
Okay.
like they tweak the game a little bit to
Yeah.
give like these challenges.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, well worth it. You can play, I mean, you can play it anyway on Mac, PC, Linux, Android TV, Fire Stick. Oh, you have a
Nice.
Fire Stick.
I have a Fire Stick.
So you can even play it on there if you wanted to.
Oh, okay, cool.
And Samsung TVs.
Nice.
And this is, how dare they say this is the first time coming to a game console? How dare they forget about the VCS?
Well, most people have. That's why the VCS was on life support until Polymega swung in and saved the day.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So again, as Ant said, there's two different versions: $30 annually or a one-time lifetime purchase for $80. I would definitely go lifetime. On their website, if you go to antstream.com and you order the game through there, they're doing a thing where 1 in 10 orders will get a free upgrade to the lifetime.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a little interesting. And I'm going to throw this out there. So I don't know how it's working with me. Now that I'm saying this, I'm probably going to change it. I don't subscribe to Antstream Arcade, but what happens is when you want to play a game, you earn jewels. Well, you earn jewels in general. That's how you kind of do it. And you spend jewels to play the games. And the games are like 5 to 10 jewels each. And I have like 300 jewels right now. And I think I get like certain number of jewels each week automatically. If you watch an ad, you get jewels, you can win them, stuff like that. So I guess I'm on like because either it was a deal through the VCS where I don't have a subscription, but I can only play within the number of jewels that I have.
Okay.
So if I have a good day or a bad day, I'm going to be spending a lot of them. Right. So I don't know how the subscription part.
I was going to say it sounds like it's just open access.
I think so. I think it might just be open access, and so you just play unlimited. Yeah,
I think if you're limiting people to how much they can play in a day, it's gonna turn people away from it.
It depends. But still, nevertheless, it's and I don't know if it's gonna be a physical disc that just have like remember the old Netflix discs.
Oh,
like to play. Yeah, I don't know if it's something like that, but nevertheless, you can download it right now as we speak on Xbox, and then the quote unquote physical copy is coming out later.
Okay.
But definitely check this out. Again, another present. There's games from the Amiga, there's games from the NES, the Super NES. They just had their own showcase. They're going to start dipping into indie games. They're actually going to start dipping into PS1 games for the first time.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the big ones they announced was Glover is going to be coming to the
very cool.
Little hamburger helper guy.
Yes.
So again, another way to preserve and an amazing platform. Like I said, unfortunately, it's really the only reason why I use the VCS. And if it wasn't for Polymega,
so.
If it wasn't for Polymega, this would put a bullet in the VCS for me.
Absolutely.
So
how the VCS didn't wind up in the trash with your other consoles.
Shush. I love my VCS, even though it sounds like it's going to take off every now and then.
Well, at least it's better than the Virtual Boy.
Anthony's back in LA, so he has to go back. And with that being said,
that's where all my Virtual Boy jokes came from. That makes sense.
They left them all right there in LA.
Look, here they are. just pick them right up.
Dare you, sir.
Hashtag
with that
BB
being
sucks.
I think we're just gonna
Charlie.
Yes. Would I mention that to? I mentioned to somebody recently the VB sucks. So with that, we're gonna roll on actually with one more thing here. About not necessarily archiving, but a system that that jump started a lot of this.
Oh,
and I think we do have a special birthday this week. I think we should talk about it now.
Yeah, we have an extra special retro birthday. As of today, the day we are recording this episode, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Nintendo Famicom's release. It was released on July 15th, 1983.
83 sounds so old as far as like a Nintendo system, whatever.
It is old, and we are old.
We are.
So July 15th, 1983, it was released in Japan. It was only released with 3 games.
Only 3? I didn't know
only
that.
3. Donkey Kong.
Okay.
Donkey Kong Jr.
Okay.
And Popeye.
Oh, wow. Popeye was a release. Okay, cool.
Yep. And not only that, in 1983, only 9 games were released in total.
Wow.
For the Famicom.
Weird.
So very, very interesting. A couple other interesting things that happened to the system that year. One was it was released on the same day that Sega released the SG-1000 console.
Wow.
So there was actually a console war in '83. It was smaller, but it was there.
It's wild.
And then also, which I found interesting, there was a hardware defect in the Famicom, the initial Famicom release, that caused a complete product recall the following year.
Wow.
Yeah, which when you think about it, kind of a shaky start for the Famicom.
That's
but
news.
we all know what happened from there. So
yeah, we think.
The rest is history. But only 3 games to start with, 9 in total in '83, a recall, and yet, it went down in history. And then Absolutely. 2 years later, we got the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yes,
of course. Between these two, saved the video game industry, and honestly just saved the video game industry, because the crash at that point was hard.
Yeah. Oh no, it was. Oh my gosh, what Atari did, and even what we mentioned here on the podcast once, Commodore 64 kind of added to that. Some innovations from the Famicom I still can't believe we didn't get. Well, thankfully, when the NES came over, they made the wires longer and detachable from the system, so that's nice.
Yes.
But I always enjoyed how the controllers were on the Famicom, where the second player controller had the mic and the
microphone
and the speaker. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was really cool. And usable on the Mini, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That, it had, at a certain point, it had a keyboard.
Yeah.
It had the disc system add-on. There was a lot of innovation. And on top of that, they were the last Famicom to be produced on the production line. This came out July 15th, 1983. The last one to be produced was on September 25th, 2003. 20 years later. That system was being produced for 20 years. And
Insane.
I'm very grateful that I have it in my collection.
Yes, you are very lucky with that. I do not have one. Hopefully one day.
You didn't ask me for one.
I didn't want one. But now I do.
Yeah. How about now? How about now?
Hey, I got some Famicom games on the Switch, and I got the Famicom controllers for the Switch, of which I think the second controller has the speaker and you can yell into it as well. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Maybe not the Mini does that.
Maybe.
But nevertheless, happy birthday to the Famicom. Trust me, when the NES hits 40, we're going to have a big hoopla for it. But for now,
2 years away.
Oh,
2 years away.
And with that, wow. And real quick, where can people chime in? Maybe tell us where some of these games can be found that are missing in the wild.
Well, you can find me in LA. And maybe some of the games are here, but you can find us at facebook.com/RetroGamersPodcast, on Instagram at RetroGamersPodcast, on Twitter at RetroGamersPod. You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube at RetroGamersPodcast, or you can email us at email@theretrogamers.com.
Yes. And with that, we're going to now jump into our game of the week.
Yes. We got a good one this week because I picked it.
No, I'm not going to lie. And your pick was phenomenal. Probably the most action that we've seen as far as announcing a game of the week on social media. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people forgot about it. A couple people weren't crazy about it.
A couple people didn't even know about it.
Exactly. And we're talking about Solomon's Key on the NES.
Yeah. So I wanted to dip into the puzzle game world, since we haven't done that before. So, and I know, Larry, you were very fond of this game before as well.
I've always said this was a sleeper hit on the NES.
Yes. So why don't we get your reaction first, since it was a game that I picked?
Well, again, I haven't played it in a while until you mentioned it, and it is available on the Switch. I thought I owned a physical copy. Actually, I texted you after we did this last week.
Don't?
Shockingly, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
I was gonna say, did I check last week if I had it?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the Nintendo Switch Online, so it's available for those who have Nintendo Switch.
Right.
But I can't believe, which now makes me want to go and purchase one just to own, to have.
Yeah, I have it.
So Solomon's Key was always an amazing puzzler for me. It's just, it's a single screen. And the idea is basically you get from point A to point B, in the middle, picking up a key to get to a door, but you have these enemies, you have these obstacles in the way, and you're only major mode of defense and movement is being able to create and destroy blocks at will. Yes, you can pick up fireballs and stuff like that, but
Yes.
immediately you have these blocks, and
Yes.
that's the idea of the puzzle, to get to the thing, get to the door. I think there's 50 levels, maybe a few more,
Okay.
64 in total on the NES version, because this started as an arcade game. I never
Yes.
saw it in the
Not,
arcades.
neither did I.
In fact, I'm kind of itching to see, because I don't know how different the arcade is, because we all know the arcade is usually different than the NES
Yes.
versions. The arcade version is currently available on the Switch and the PS4, PS4, PS5 as an arcade archive. So I'm debating on
Nice.
picking that up just to see. I mean, the graphics is different as well. But on the NES, again, 64 levels, 15 of which are a secrets,
Secret.
which I never realized until now, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I remember finding a secret level once.
I definitely haven't, because I will admit I never got far in this game, and I still haven't gotten that far in this game.
Nice.
I probably only gotten maybe, I mean, on a good day, 7 or 8 levels in. I
Okay.
was terrible at this game.
Oh no, I wasn't good at it either, but thanks to the Switch Online save function, I'm definitely able to plow through more than I could before.
Well, that doesn't help me too much. Oh no, I'm good. But see see, here's back in the day with these type of games, was there was no save feature, there was no password, nothing like that.
Yeah.
So we got really good with the first couple of levels that we could
Oh
do with
yeah.
our eyes closed.
Yeah, you owned the first like 2 or 3 levels, and then it was like, whoops, everything's all falling apart.
And then from there it was game over. I
Hmm.
just enjoyed the simplicity of the game. I never found it overwhelming. That,
Yeah.
I think, is what I loved about it. A lot of puzzle games can be just overwhelming and daunting, where you're like, I don't want to touch this game anymore.
Yes.
Whereas something about Solomon's Key made you come back over and over.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Um, one of the things which I always found interesting and I never looked into, and even now I'm reading it on Wikipedia, I still don't know what the heck it means. When the game was over, you always got like a, not a score, but like a value. It was called a game deviation value,
Hmm.
GDV. And I still to this point don't know. I mean, there's different factors that play into it, says here, like levels completed, items found, time, and points. But I don't think I've ever had a high GDV. Maybe in the high 40s. That was about it. Never
Yeah.
got anything above that.
I honestly don't know what my GDV would be in that. I really don't. I was never concerned with like getting the jewels and stuff like that. I just wanted to get through the door.
It's funny. I always was concerned about trying to get jewels. So there's one level, maybe like we just talked about it before, about 5 or 6 levels in, where you basically got to go straight up.
Yep.
And what you do is you have about 5 or 6 levels of these dragons that are off center from each
On
other
both sides.
on
Yep.
both sides, firing at you. And it wasn't until recently I finally came up with a strategy to get rid of them, first of all. And then they have jewels kind of lined up where if you get to the top, you can just drop and you
Yes.
collect them all. But it wasn't until until the last couple of days, I'm like, you know what? Let me not worry about score. Let me just try and get through the game.
Right.
And that's what I started doing. And I still haven't gotten that far. So again, my highest probably like 6th or 7th room, maybe
Okay.
once to the 8th room, maybe. I never got past Taurus because it goes through the zodiac signs.
Yes.
I never saw what a Gemini board looks like. So, and how far did you get in it?
Again, thanks to the Switch Online save function, I'm at level 17 right now.
Okay. Wow.
And I have declared level 17 the impossible level because it's just, yeah, I can't see a way through it. So I'm working on it though.
Okay.
But
Fair.
yeah, but this game to me was always a great puzzle platformer. I loved the concept of it. Again, giving the character something very like a very simple item, building blocks in order to like get through these levels. Just really, it was just a fun concept to me. And something completely different from everything else I've ever played. Like I can honestly say when I look at this game, I can't think of an equivalent.
No.
Or not even an equivalent, but a comparison of. Like I can't look at it and say, "Oh, this reminds me of this." So I love it for being so unique. But at the same time, like it's a game that, especially when you transfer it to console, it's a game that screams for a password.
It really does. Yes.
And that's definitely one of my complaints about it. And I have very few complaints about it. Like that was definitely the main complaint, where it's like, you need a password function for this game. For console. For arcade, I totally understand it. Arcade is different.
Oh, of course.
You want to continue, put in another quarter. I was like, but if you paid $50-$60 for the game, it's like, yeah, give me the ability to finish it. So I think it's safe to say I don't think I'll ever finish this game on the original NES on the cartridge. But with Switch Online now, I have like renewed hope. Oh, I can see the ending of this, which is nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Some cool stuff about the game. Some ports of the game. It was released on the Master System in Japan in 1988. In 1990, it was a pack-in video for a pack-in game for the PC Engine titled Zipang.
Interesting.
1991, a Game Boy version was released called Solomon's Club, which I now have to find.
Good luck.
There's a prequel that came out, Solomon's Key 2, which is actually available to us right now on the Nintendo Switch Online, because it's called, in North America, it was called Fire and Ice.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
That's a prequel, yeah.
Nice. All right,
and
gotta play that.
There was a version of a game. It was called Solomon in Japan. Here it was called Monster Rancher Explorer for the Game Boy Color. Wow, I can't talk today. Game Boy Color. Exact same gameplay as Solomon's Key, but includes Monster Rancher characters. So from that series. Okay. So very cool on that. So it definitely has its love. And like I said, this is probably the most interactive that we had as far as games being announced. Yep. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so we all hope that you enjoyed it for Game of the Week. And with that, it is now my turn to choose a Game of the Week. And
it is your turn. However,
what happened?
However, I don't know if you remember, we had discussed this earlier.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes. So just as a reminder, we actually will be suspending Game of the Week for a couple of weeks while I am away from the podcast.
Anthony's going to be away. So not as much suspend, but play whatever you want.
Yeah, basically play whatever you want.
Enjoy.
Maybe look at the last at the batch of games that we did mention over the last few weeks, and maybe try and like shore those up and finish them before we move on to another one.
Yes.
But Larry, for now, I'd keep that in your pocket.
No, you're right. No, I completely forgot. And now also reminds me I got to talk to someone about an episode in a couple of weeks. But be that as it may, again, Solomon's Key, awesome hit. Yes. And with that, I think we'll get to news, and then we'll start wrapping this all up.
All right, and I'll try and fly through this news this week because I know we've been doing a lot of stuff. All right, first thing I saw was that there is a collection coming out on the Switch and Xbox, PS4, and PS5. They've announced the Irem Collection Volume 2.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I saw this. Yes.
So again, being released on all current consoles, the collection will include 3 games: Gun Force 2, and Air Duel.
Yep.
So these have all been released in the past. There was a collection for Windows way back in 2010. But for you console lovers out there, you'll be able to play all 3 of these games on console, which is really cool.
Yes,
these are all, I think, side-scrolling.
They're shoot 'em ups. Well, I mean,
shoot 'em up.
2 of them are shoot 'em ups. Air Duel is not necessarily a side scroller, but it's a
vertical.
Yeah.
Isn't it a vertical?
No. The first 2 are vertical. No, actually that's a lie. Excuse me. Let me rephrase all.
I'm looking at images of Air Duel. It plays like
Air Duel. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. But the other 2 are more almost like one plays almost like Metal Slug, kind of sort of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
yeah, these are games right up your alley.
And not only that, but this is an awesome collection that's being done because they're planned for like 4 or 5 of these to come out. Yes. So it's very cool. So the first one had Image Fight 2, and X Multiply.
Okay.
So again, great series. So looking forward to it.
Yep. Okay. And to continue on with the collections being released, recently in Japan they released the Telenet shooting collection.
Yes.
In Japan. They have now confirmed that this collection is going to be coming to the West. Physical pre-orders start on July 21st.
Okay.
And this will feature 4 high-quality ports of classic Telenet Japan games, which are Granada, Gaeris,
Mm-hmm.
Avenger, and Psychic Storm.
Oh, all good games. Actually, I have Guy Aries. Guy
Yep.
Aries is phenomenal.
And you'll be able to pre-order that on Limited Run Games on July 21st.
Sweet.
So I know you'll be doing that. Here's a really random, and I say random, I mean very random.
Okay.
We've talked recently about McDonald's releasing they released
Tetris?
chicken McNugget.
The Tetris
pocket.
McNugget. Yep.
The Tetris McNugget. Now we're getting a Grimace Party. Well,
yes.
there is an official game console, quote unquote, coming out from Maybelline. Who is Maybelline? We're talking Maybelline, the makeup company.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
There you go. Maybe it's Maybelline. And they've actually enlisted Chinese pop star Hua Chenyu to promote the official game console.
Really? Interesting.
So, yep. So it's an official 16-bit console that will contain 200 games. And it's basically a Game Boy. It looks like a Game Boy, but it's going to have 200 games installed into it.
Wow.
Again, this is just a, just like a marketing ploy type of thing. And I have no idea what games are going to be in it. It's not like they announced like, oh, these official games in it. They might all be like, cheap knockoffs. But Maybelline is just getting into the video game side of things as a fun little thing to do. And you can buy their little console on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So if you look it up, see what happens. Here's a piece of news that you're gonna love. All right. So you love your Evercade, right?
I do.
You love your Evercade. So
awesome.
The creator of the Evercade, Blaze, recently revealed that they were launching a new brand called Hyper Megatech.
I saw something about this, but I don't know. I have more info on it. Yeah.
Okay. So Hyper Megatech, according to them, would focus on bringing great licenses and properties together with retro and nostalgic products featuring modern sensibilities. So video games, toys, board games, bunch of stuff. Okay. So Hyper Megatech now recently announced the Super Pocket, which is a Game Boy style handheld that will play your Evercade carts. So now you can take your Evercade carts with you on the go.
Well, I don't. I hate to do this to you, but I don't think it's going to do the carts. Because there's already the Evercade Evo, not Evo. They already have a handheld. These are like
this is a different type of handheld.
Yeah. So there's a Taito edition and a Capcom edition.
Yes, but it says here in the article I'm reading, the Super Pocket is also compatible with Evercade cartridges.
Well, I apologize then.
Which means you can massively expand your library of games. So it's not just the 2 cartridges for it.
I apologize. I do see it here. My mistake. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah,
don't ever question. Wild.
Don't ever question me.
EXP is what I was trying to say before.
Yeah, you should never question me.
And this thing's only like $60 US.
Yeah.
Wow.
So very affordable. Launches in October.
Okay.
So if you are interested, and then they do have limited edition versions. They have a Capcom edition and a Taito edition.
As I mentioned, yep.
So you can do that. But yeah, maybe something to add to your collection.
That's wild. Yes, because it's a lot cheaper than the other thing.
Yeah. Here's something a little more current, but kind of fun and interesting that you might wind up playing.
Yeah.
I think I'm done with these kind of games, but everybody knows how big Pokemon Go has become.
Oh, right? Yeah, man.
Pokemon Go is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right? But now Google is going to be releasing AR Space Invaders, which is basically Pokemon Go, but while you're walking through your neighborhood, you're going to see giant space invaders that you have to take out.
That's wild.
The pre-registration is now officially open.
Okay.
And that's literally what it is. It's you walk around and you find it's almost like remember what was Pixels, the movie?
Yes. Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, you know the giant, like when you saw the giant space invaders
Yep,
in the
yep.
sky stuff. That's what you.
Oh, that's gonna freak me out.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna see. You're gonna be walking around, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh my god.
Shoot for the head.
So that's coming out.
Cool.
Um, we talked earlier about libraries
Yes.
and books and stuff like that. So something else to add to your video game library.
Hmm.
There's a new book coming out from author Jordan Miner called Video Game of the Year.
Hmm.
And what the book does is it breaks down the history of one game per year from 1977 to 2022.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know if these were all voted as Video Game of the Year for that year, but the idea is you get one game a year, and then he kind of goes into the details of each game, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
So I'm curious about that one, because there are some well-known ones on there: Pong, Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, Mega Man 2's in there.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have some some ones you wouldn't expect in there, like 2013 Depression Quest, or 2022's is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Okay.
But for the most part, like most of the games you're going to know: Pitfall, Dragon Quest,
Okay.
Donkey Kong Country 2, Super Mario 64, so on and so forth. So interesting book. I may have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Huh. And then we talked about Antstream, which is great. And then the last bit of news is that the Federal Trade Commission has finally okayed Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
Oh, okay.
So
that's going to be interesting.
Activision Blizzard will officially be under the Microsoft banner.
Can we say goodbye to a lot of these Call of Duty and Diablo games on the PlayStation? I don't think so, but it'll be interesting.
I would think if Microsoft wants to continue competing with Sony, I think that might actually be the case.
Funny enough, I think they're actually talking about bringing Call of Duty to Switch. So
interesting.
It might be, yeah. So we'll see.
That's probably going to be a mess.
Very, very interesting though to hear about that. So we'll see what Microsoft does with Blizzard.
All right, and that completes our retro news for the week.
All right, and with that, then we will call it a week.
Awesome.
As Ant dropped, he'll be gone for the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
So I
have things to do, people to see.
Fair enough. And I have none of which to do. In fact, I technically kind of have off next week because I already recorded next week's episode.
There you go. So you know what, Larry? You deserve a break. Take a break.
But with that being said, we'll have a couple of cool guest hosts over the next couple of weeks. And then Ant, you'll be back. And we'll be right back to where we were.
Yeah, we'll be right back to the garbage we do.
Oh, it's great garbage. But remember, folks, don't forget.
It's retro garbage.
Yes. Oh, even there is no other. August 11th to the 13th, the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. Get your tickets now, liretro.com. We will be there. Come say hi. Maybe we'll give you an autograph if you have a spare piece of paper and a pen with you. So get your tickets. Don't wait. And have a wonderful week. Actually, have a wonderful few weeks.
Yeah, you have a wonderful couple of weeks as well. Try and enjoy them without me.
What I usually do. And we'll catch you everywhere next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.